Hello, young adults of the Archdiocese of St. Louis. This is Father Archer here. I hope your Lenten season has had a good and a purifying start. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to go to the screening of a movie called Radiating Joy, the Michelle Duppong story. Michelle Duppong herself was a young adult here in the Midwest. She was born and raised in North Dakota, and she lived a beautiful life, faithful to the Lord, but tragically passed away from cancer at the age of 31. She served as a focus missionary for 6 years and also served in different capacities within the Diocese of Bismarck. And the story was very inspiring, with the great simplicity and yet great holiness of the life that she lived. Bishop Kagan has recently opened her cause for canonization, declaring her a servant of God. And there were two particular aspects of her life story that I found striking from people who knew her well. One of the stories comes from her fellow focus missionary. Her fellow missionary said every morning when she would go to the chapel for her holy hour, Michelle would always beat her there to the chapel. But she wouldn't see Michelle for the first 30 minutes because Michelle was in the habit of going to the very front of the chapel in front of the first pew, and she would kneel there. And then she would kneel and she would kind of bow over, and she would be caught in such intense adoration that for 30 minutes or so, she would hardly move, but she'd be so caught up in the Eucharistic mystery of God's love for her. The spirit of adoration and worship of God just filled her life. But then what I found particularly fascinating is how this love of Jesus in the Eucharist carried over to the other parts of her life. Many people testified that when they would speak to Michelle, it would feel like they were the only person who mattered in the world, that Michelle would be so locked in on them and so filled with attentive love for whatever was going on in their life, that they felt such a deep sense of being reverenced and honored by her. In these accounts, I saw a connection, that in the same way that Michelle was able to adore Jesus with her whole heart, mind, and soul in the Eucharist, she then had the spirit to go and adore Jesus when she would encounter him and other people. And this is a beautiful thing for all of us to reflect on in this Lenten season, of how we worship Jesus, both in the Eucharist and in how we encounter him and the other people that we're privileged to meet each day. And this past month has been such a beautiful month for our young adult ministry here. We've launched our first Nazareth Night Brentwood, and it was such a joy to gather with 150 other young adults here in the Archdiocese, to have some beautiful music with our young adult Schola, and then also to spend time simply in adoration over at Mary Magdalene in Brentwood. Of course, I also greatly enjoyed socializing with many of you at Schlafly's afterwards. And so the first one was on the third Wednesday of the month, and our next one will also be on the third Wednesday of this coming month. So mark your calendars for March 20th. We're going to have the second Nazareth Night Brentwood. And a number of priests are very eager to go and to spend time praying with you and getting to know you at the social afterwards. So it would be a joy to have you there. And there's another of other things I'd love to highlight, of opportunities to encounter our Eucharistic Lord here in this year of the Eucharist. The first week of March 6th and March 8th, there are two other beautiful Eucharistic events. Father Jacob Braun, out at Holy Infant on March 6th, has invited the group Polyhymna, who are these sort of professional singers of chant and polyphony and other such things. He's invited them out to do a holy hour and social as well on March 6th. And then Kenrick is having their Nazareth night on March 8th. So you can have two beautiful evenings of prayer all there in that first week of March. Then on March 14th, Father Detweiler out at St. Pat's in Wentzville is planning a young adult mass. And so especially for our St. Charles friends and for all those who live across the river, that's a wonderful event that you might go to go and to gather with other young adults and experience that great community life. But one thing I'm particularly excited for is having the men's retreat. And that's going to be on March 23rd. And there's a sign up in the flock note that goes out on the first of each month. And so March 23rd, Ben and Lisa Harris once more are welcoming us out to their place called Bethany Farms. And men are welcome to sign up for this free retreat. And it's a retreat given by Father Ben Cameron, who is a father of mercy, on the principles of discernment. And it's a general sense of discernment of anytime you're discerning a big decision in your life, it's good to know like the best way to go about things. And so this is a great chance for the men to gather, to get to know each other better, to grow in fellowship with one another, and then also to enter into the spirit of prayer together as well. And so I hope many of the men take us up on that opportunity. For the women, your retreat day will come on May 4th, and that'll be hosted at the Catholic Studies Center down at SLU's campus. And so those are some fun and exciting things on the horizon. But ultimately, it's not just about planning events. That's not what we're here for. No, it's much more about building a culture and growing in friendship with one another and growing in holiness together. And for that reason, I'm very excited that there's some men who are launching new Augustine Way prayer groups to help challenge each other and grow in virtue with one another. And I've also heard growing interest in Bible studies. And so I'd encourage you, if you're interested in either attending a Bible study or especially in leading a Bible study, that you talk to other young adults or you perhaps talk to me at some of these different events that are going on so that we could connect people to keep building the life of our community. And so it's been a joy walking with you this past month and seeing the good ways, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ in different people's lives. And just a word of encouragement as we're in this sort of almost midway point in the Lenten season, still kind of on the early side, to stay strong and to continue to pursue Jesus in the Eucharist. Because the more deeply you adore Jesus there, the more present you will see him in the eyes of each person whom you encounter. God bless you all.